Johnny, relax.
Right, all right. Let's get this party started. I feel like I need to come in with some gun sounds like "Brr, brr, brr." I missed coming live last week. Yeah, I'm looking, I got this whole little thing right here, so I'm trying to figure out. I don't got the "Brr, brr, brr," but glad to be back. Um yeah, was out of town last week. For a conference. So, as we're trying to grow this show and we learning through our own growing pains as we, go live and do this show consistently. One thing that I realized that on the road can be a little more difficult. So if I'm out there and it's just myself doing some consulting, it's a little easier. I got a little more control of my schedule, but when I have to go to a conference, please tell me, wait, are you on YouTube or are you on Facebook? Because it says the YouTube, but I know last time you told me you were on Facebook. So yeah, and I see you on the screen too, and it's crazy because it shows your Facebook notification. So I don't know what that's all about. I guess it figures out it works when it wants to. But yeah, like I was saying, conferences and professional development things can be a little more difficult than when I'm going out to work with a client. So generally, if I have a professional development or some sort of conference, I'm going to probably have to cancel the shows for that week. And as a matter of fact, might as well prepare. The week of the 18th, I will be going to Georgia for a conference. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to go live, but we're gonna party hard till then. Got a few things I want to talk about and something that I learned. I disappeared on YouTube again. Let me find out. Hey, I told you YouTube. YouTube might actually be catching up to me. I told you I wasn't supposed to be going live on YouTube anyway. So YouTube might be catching me. So that sucks, man. I don't know. It says I'm still live, so I don't know. YouTube does its own thing sometimes. I guess it's that Streamlabs thing. But anyway, we're gonna talk about a couple of things, and I learned something a little interesting at the conference that I feel like will be beneficial for all of us to on this healing path. It'll add some perspective on how we approach life and relationships and games per se. So first thing I want to chat about, yeah, I don't, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. So, but I'm glad you could be there. Seriously. So first thing I want to talk about, is gonna talk a little bit about myself. So one of the things, like I said, I was back on the road, and this is what I would consider my first like traveling trip back on the road again. And I had a little anxiety. I was feeling a little nervous, and it's wild because I've traveled a bunch in my life. So, but I haven't traveled. I haven't like really, really traveled since the pandemic. Really, the only places I've probably been really since COVID was Atlanta. Yeah, so not really traveling that much, but I know I'm about to start that. So I was supposed to, as a matter of fact, I was actually supposed to be in Tallahassee this week, but that trip got canceled. So actually glad I'm not in Tallahassee this week. But had a little anxiety, about getting back on the road and all of those things. But I had some immediate interesting interactions that helped me have a little perspective. So when I was going, and it actually happened with Uber drivers. So when I was going to the airport, I had this guy, and him and I just started talking about life and energy dynamics and so forth. And he was pretty much had the perspective of all of these constructs that we see are pretty much made up. You know what I mean? So the make believe and we create our own boxes by the constructs that we create in our mind. You know what I mean? So whether it be the jobs or whether it be the family or whether it be perspectives and ideas, he was of the mindset that it's all made up. And truly it is, essentially, if you get to the core of it. But one thing that wound up sticking with me is I talked to him about one of the things that we've talked about on the show a little bit, and it was how we normalize specific emotions. And the thing that resonated most with him was the one where we talked about stress. As a matter of fact, when I talked about the alopecia, and you would be happy to know that my hair is coming back, right? But this lady want to keep giving me shots in my head. I'm like, yo, I went that last time. Doop, 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 doop. It's crazy. It's like 8 shots in my head, but you know what I mean? It look a little grandpa-ish, but my hair's coming back. I've been mindful about my stress. But anyway, so talking to him about how some of the things, some of the emotions and feelings that we've normalized that aren't necessarily normal. And the one I specifically spoke to him about was the stress one. Because, as I said, I'm still dealing with the effects of stress getting the better of me at some point. And I told him that thing that I say about myself, how I'm a fourth quarter baller. You know what I mean? So when the pressure is on, I want the ball in my hand. And when I had to think about how stress was affecting me, I had to take that pause and step back and realize how much unintentional stress that I'm putting on myself by living that mind state, by thinking that when the pressure is on, I'm the best under pressure instead of just thinking about my skill set suffice or sustain me throughout anything, not just necessarily under pressure. You know what I mean? So, like, if I can swim in a pool, I can swim in the ocean, I can swim in the lake. I don't just have to wait till a shark is chasing me for me to swim, right? So I don't have to wait till the pressure is on. And dude sat there and he was like, he had a Caribbean accent too. So he was like, "Man, I say the same thing. I say I'm a fourth quarter baller." He had never heard it put in those terms, but he was like, "I think the same way, where I function best under pressure." And he was like, "I never even realized how much unintentional stress that I was causing myself by doing that." And that dude was like, "Man, this is probably the best tip I could ever get." And as I got out of the car, dude, he's like, "I'm going home." He literally said he was going home after that. And that gave me a little perspective. And then on the ride back, I wound up having a different Uber driver, right? And in the conversation with this older white woman, she had just moved to I don't even want to say, but it is a retirement community that is in up in South Carolina. That is huge. Golf course, everything. I've only been there one time for a Chamber of Commerce meeting, which is crazy. Sometimes I still laugh at how I'm wound up at some of these things, like why I'm at a Chamber of Commerce meeting. But I was there. So she was so excited telling me about the new neighborhood and how great it was and how she had plans this weekend to go to. She was like, my boyfriend she told me she was 62. And she said, my boyfriend is having his first grandchild and we're having a baby shower, right? And you may not know this about me, but you're about to find out. One thing I love is baby shower meatballs. Listen, if somebody's telling me they going to a baby shower, I don't know. I just like baby shower finger foods. And baby showers generally come with finger foods. You're not eating big pieces of fried chicken. They got the meatballs. They got that weird dip, whatever it is. I don't even know what half the stuff is at baby shower. But I like baby shower food. So when she says to me that she's going to this baby shower, I immediately say, "Oh man, are you gonna have baby shower meatballs?" And she paused and she was like, Oh my God. And she started cracking up, right? And she thought it was funny because she had never heard them called baby shower meatballs. So it was a little cultural difference because of course I'm black and she happened to be a Caucasian older white woman. And I don't know what they call them, but she did not they wherever she's from in her family or her experiences, they did not call them baby shower meatballs. And it was funny because we started talking about how I was like, please, if you have the meatballs this weekend, I'm probably gonna be the first person that you think of if you see meatballs at the baby shower, right? And then we laughed about that a little bit, and then that weird dip, Kelly, you know what it is? It is. I don't know. It's yellow queso. I don't know. It's just hamburger meat in there. It'd be peppers and it's like taco dip with no taco. I don't know, but you know what I'm talking about. You've been to baby shower. It's always the dip. It's always the meatballs. If you got a fancy baby shower, they got chicken wings. You got, and it's vegetables and stuff. But I don't know what that dip is. But it's baby shower dip, baby shower meatballs, for real, for real. But also in the conversation, I started talking to her and I tell her that I'm a government employee. And I don't even know. And I generally stay away from politics and stuff like that, right? And in the conversation, I tell her, I'm one of those people that if the government shuts down this Friday, as a matter of fact, it's that 8th. Yeah, the 8th is Friday, this Friday. Yes. So if the government doesn't figure it out by this Friday, I'm one of the people who won't get paid anymore until they figure it out, right? And it's hilarious because a lot of times when we hear them talking about government shutdowns and all that stuff, we don't really know anyone or we don't really meet anyone or we don't really see anyone who actually is directly affected by that. Or you don't realize that real live people can be affected by the incompetence or the lack of working together that our government may have. And she looked at me and she was like, okay, that makes sense. After I made her laugh about the meatballs, I made myself seem human. And then I told her a real human story. And she was like, yeah, I really do agree. I was like, and this doesn't matter who you politically identify with. I don't care who you identify with. I just need them to figure it out so I can continue to get my check like they will. You know what I mean? Because, which is crazy. And what this wound up doing, being back out, these two specific interactions wound up giving me a perspective of this energy being on the road. So what it winds up doing is I put a face on the healing that we talk about so people get to interact with me and laugh and I get to hopefully plant some fertile seeds. I mean, plant some seeds of some fertile land in the mind, you know what I mean? Leave some Jews and make people laugh and put a face on what we call life and life experiences. So as much as I was nervous, I actually am a new type of nervous. Now I look forward and I look excited and I'm way excited to be on the road a little bit more so I can have that interaction a lot. And it definitely didn't stop there because I wound up having to get a little perspective. So I went to this conference, right? We'll just call it a conference, but a professional development meeting. And for me, it's kind of like how when we say in the healing process we talk about how you'll find yourself in the same spot but at a different level to get a new perspective or it's a new lesson for you to learn or it's definitely a new experience that can happen in that same environment. So as I talked about before that my career is supposed to children and families and specifically prenatal, so pregnant moms, pregnant families, families dealing with pregnancy to 5 years old. Yeah, that was crazy. And so the comment says it's awesome how I transmuted that nervous energy into something positive. And I won't even say I give myself the credit for that, right? I give myself the credit for being aware and paying attention to the answers that come. You know what I mean? So when I was dealing with nervousness or I was a little anxious, I needed that. That is a sign of fear, uncertainty, a lack of clarity, and I needed something that would clean that up. You know what I mean? So those experiences wind up helping to clear that uncertainty up and all that. So all I was left with was this weird level of confidence as I'm going to learn more about fiscal initiatives and fiscal policies and procedures, which is all a mind blowing, for a lack of better words, is a brain F, for a lack of better words. So this is all wild. Just my life right now is just crazy, crazy because yeah. But anyway, so I'm at this conference, and I remember the first time when I first got into this field, right? I went into this conference, and I'll say one of the more difficult things with being a male in a field dominated by women is the perspectives or the perceptions of males, period. So when I first got into this field, I remember when I'd go to a conference, it used to be so crazy. I used to think people were literally out of their mind. Two things that I did. I remember the first conference I went to, I sat in that room and I was like, Lord, if you're listening, if anybody is listening, please don't have me look like these people. And what I thought was, yo, all these people look tired and haggard and beat up. And I was like, yo, from a couple of years of working with kids, they suck the life out of you like that. Like, listen. And I call it, oh my God, I can't, I call it the waddle. Everybody in this field got this little waddle. And ironically, every conference that you go to, they always like to wobble. So, but Mr. Anthony don't wobble. Don't worry about that. But they got this waddle walk, and I mean, these people look like kids was draining the life out of them. And all they really did with me was drain the color out my hair, so it's all good. And the other thing that was very interesting to me, because I got into this field bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So I figured that everybody's in this field is going to be empathetic and loving and blah, 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 and all these things. And I didn't really realize how much our field is filled with trauma. A lot of people go into this field to try to make sure that children don't experience the traumas that we have, give them the tools to navigate the traumas that we've experienced. And a lot of times they haven't dealt with these traumas. So trauma shows up in a lot of different ways. So specifically the one I want to talk about is being a man. So what would happen? I'd sit down and no lie, it will be one chair beside me, and it's the only chair that's beside me. And at first, I thought it was a fluke, and the people would choose to stand up instead of come sit beside me. And I just think that was crazy, 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 crazy. And then I let my mouth get myself in a little bit of trouble too. So I wound up having a little bit of beef. So we were promoting. They had this whole national initiative on nutrition for children, right? And I was very curious because one of the things that creates a certain level of disconnect between parents and teachers is nutrition, right? And one thing that I was a little curious about early in my career is which was very obvious. It is very hard if I was 600 pounds, like you see me on my 600-pound life, right? But I still managed to go and teach a kid every day. It would be very hard for a parent to receive from me nutrition. Like if I'm sitting up here telling you you need to feed your baby a more nutritious and balanced meal, they're gonna look at me like, who are you to say anything? And as wild as it is, you don't have to even be healthy at all. I can live off candy bars alone, but I just have to have the appearance of health. You know what I mean? And the appearance of health, people receive it a little bit better. But I was bold and I stood up and I was like, so we got this national initiative for the children, but where is it for the teachers? And they tried to act like they didn't understand what I was saying. So you know me, if you don't understand what I was saying, I get it a little raw. So I pretty much called about 200 people, specifically women, in this room fat. I call everybody obese. Girl, man, listen to me when I tell you. These people, man, I had so much beefing for like the first 4 years of my career. I was known as Yellow Shirt. This is fun. I don't even wear yellow shirts anymore because of this. I ain't want anybody to see me. And they didn't recognize my face, but they recognized my face together with that yellow shirt. I felt like Buddy from Blues Clues, Steve. Like, as long as I wear the shirt, no one recognizes me. But if I wear this yellow shirt, they gonna recognize me. And I mean, these women were bad. They chased me down about that. And even though that was one experience, I had gone to several conferences. And one thing that wound up being consistent is the body language, which is reflective of the mind state and the ideas and the thought processes, the body language of the people as they interact with males. You know what I mean? It was certain types of males that got less of a certain amount of aloofness or disconnect, and I would have to be like, the best way to describe them is that old janitor. You know what I mean? Like, in all the elementary schools and all the daycares, if I had this old janitor vibe, you know what I mean, like club foot and just come to move the furniture, that would have been a little bit different. Or if, for lack of better words, if I'd have been a little more high strung, for lack of better words, they would have been received a little bit different. But coming in as a normal male, whatever that is, it definitely was a weird dynamic that I definitely didn't feel welcomed in. And that is one of the reasons why men struggle to stay in this field. We aren't welcome. So that was my first experience at a conference with this national company, whatever. So now I'm coming back. And for me, this is my first conference again. I found myself in that same place. I'm at a first conference, and that's probably where some of the anxiety was. I ain't know anybody. I ain't know what to expect. Just like the first time when I went. So when I got there, people didn't welcome me. You know what I mean? So I felt like, and if you know the federal program, you can get interesting dynamics. So I actually had anxiety around, would I feel welcomed in this environment that I've been in for a long time? And I knew I'm not welcome unless I'm already familiar with the people. The only way I got welcome in these conferences is because I brought the team with me, or I used to work with somebody somewhere else. But if they ain't know me, no comfort. So now I'm back at this thing again. But the difference is, before I was on the programmatic side. So I was responsible for making sure these programs run, right? And people can benefit from these programs, right? So now I'm on the the technical assistance side. So I help the programs run better. And it's funny because it's a different dynamic. So when I'm on the programmatic side, going to the mix of people is a little bit of anything. You know what I mean? You have doctors, you have people with master's degrees, you have people with associate's degrees, you have people with CDAs, you have people with no degrees, you have people that's in the field, you have people that's in health, you have a variety, a mosh posh of people. So you can get interesting dynamics. But now on the technical assistance side, it's just nerds. Unfortunately, I mean, for lack of better words, it's like just being in the room with the smartest of the smartest people. And it was wild. You know what I mean? And it was funny because, to give you some perspective, I had a friend was like, "Hey, I want to get a job like you. Do I got to go back to school?" And they have their bachelor's degree, right? And I said, I think so, because at this level, even the administrative assistants have master's degrees. So to be able to compete with even the what you would consider a secretary, you have to have a master's degree. So it's just that level of nerdship going on. And it was wild for me because what wound up happening is I felt welcome. It was like it I okay, so I'm a military brat and I moved a lot. And one of the things you wind up having to become very, very skilled at when you move a lot is making friends. You know what I mean? And the easiest way to make friends that I can tell you is just be natural. Come in with an open energy. Come in like, okay, you know what I mean? I'm here. Hey, hey, hey. And what will wind up happening? People like, come sit with us, Anthony. Come to the cool table, Anthony. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was just like being in elementary school and going into an environment that I've been in before and felt unwelcome. It was very healing to go back into that same environment and feel so welcome by strangers and everything. And this is the environment where if you follow me on Facebook, this is where I see some wild stuff. And this is where I see the lady praise dancing to karaoke. But I'm gonna be honest, she really wasn't praise dancing, and you know what makes it worse? She was actually doing sign language, and I'm so ignorant. I'm back there like, what is she up there doing? So it looked like she. I'm like, is she praise dancing? No, she was actually signing "We Are the World." So forgive me for that. One of the comments say nerds are welcoming because they are used to being the outsiders. I don't think I can disagree with that. I think that outcasted or that outside energy definitely can create a sense of understanding and allow people to be more welcome, more welcoming. And it's one of the reasons why I try to be welcoming, and also one of the reasons why I try to pretend like I wasn't a nerd. It was funny, like excellent pretend like I wasn't a nerd. I remember when I graduated from high school, I had like 15 scholarships, and people would walk up to me and they'd be like, "Peanut, I ain't know you was a nerd." Like I know, because when it was time to skip school, I was there. When it was time to do all if it was something ignorant to do, when it was a food fight in the cafeteria, I was there. Except for chicken nugget day, because I love, I don't know, too. I love school chicken nuggets. I don't know, so I would not food fight on chicken nugget day. But so I hid that nerd thing. So it was interesting just being in that environment with all those people. But I think one of the more interesting things that I noticed about that environment was the people seemed happier. They seemed like they didn't have the level of stress and responsibility. Hey, listen, if you ain't like chicken nuggets at school, I didn't know that was what's wrong with you. That's the only day I wouldn't food fight. And it was crazy because I sometimes I do miss school because school segregates kids inside the school. So we had a little table for all our EC children, exceptional children. That's what they're called now. And when them nuggets got to flying, I would be sitting at that EC table enjoying my nuggets with them because didn't nobody really mess with them. They got a lot of passes, even in food fights in the high school cafeteria. Oh my God. So yeah, the EC kids got a pass. So I just go sit at the table and eat nuggets with them. Like, you want some nuggets? Yeah, I love nuggets. I ain't care how cool I thought I was. I want probably everything. Let them serve chicken nuggets. But anyway, I'm gonna move off on chicken nuggets. But I think I don't know. I think being in that place, the same place at a different level, um, it actually did give me a sense of appreciation too. Because, like I said, the people are happier at this level. They and it's not like they're making more money because I actually could make more money on the other side. It's not like they're doing less work. You know what I mean? I think they're actually doing something that they're comfortable with. They're welcoming, they're happy. They look around and all the coworkers are intelligent. You know what I mean? So I'm not responsible for, woo, listen, they just graduate out. And when you were supervised, you responsible no matter how smart, no matter how high or low that IQ is, you responsible. But now I ain't responsible for that either. So being surrounded in an environment that was welcoming and an environment that was happy was wild because it was the same environment that I said was trauma filled initially in my first experience, judgmental, delusional. There's a lot of things that was going on that in this same environment is very different and very healing for me. Um, so I would say be aware of some of those things. Sometimes you'll find yourself again in the same place, in the same space, on a different level for a different experience. And recognize those things and don't be afraid to go. Right. So last thing I want to talk about was something interesting. So it's let me see if this thing works like I want it to. Pow, it did. Okay. I don't want to do that. So I'm not gonna mess it up. So while I was at this conference, we had a speaker, guy named Jerry the Third, and he spoke about this book. You remember how well this is more on the line of giving you the tools like to try to help you in this process. So he spoke about this book named The Infinite Game, and it's by Simon Sinek or something like that. And it's wild. I can never say his last name correctly, but I think one of the books I have is Switch, and I think Leader starts with the Y. But he writes a lot of leadership books, and I have several of his books. But and I'm not even gonna lie, leadership books are boring sometimes. They are extra, extra boring to me. You know what I mean? But what was interesting is as this guy presented some of the stuff from the Infinite Game, it grabbed my attention. And it grabbed my attention specifically because we are all on this healing path together. And I never really thought about life in these terms. Okay, so let me get my life together. Hold on. So, Simon Sinek, that's his name. Simon Sinek. Remember, get his book. I ain't even gonna lie. The other books I couldn't even read, but I think I definitely will be able to read The Infinite Game. But it's interesting. So I didn't think of life in these terms. So it's finite and infinite. And finite games are games that we are, to give you some examples, that we are pretty much familiar with. That would be like, if you're pretty good at spades, that will be a good game. That would be a finite game. Uno is considered a finite game. If you like NFL, football, baseball, basketball, there are finite games. And finite games are defined as what you see on the screen. So finite games have known players. All those things, all those examples that we gave, we have known players. If me and you sit down and play Uno, we're gonna know the players. It's gonna be me, the winner, and you, the loser. So we're gonna know the players. And it doesn't change. Known players. You think of a football team, known players. You think of a basketball team, they have known players. Other thing about finite games are you have to play by the fixed rules. So finite games come with rules to help you play the game, for lack of better words. So like I said, if me and you playing Uno, we argue. There's argument over the rules of Uno, but you can open up that Uno box and it comes with fixed rules. Basketball has fixed rules on how you score, on how you can foul. Football has fixed rules. Dominoes has fixed rules. You can adjust a little bit. Spades have fixed rules. You might have to sit down and discuss those rules before you get started, and I suggest you do. But they have fixed rules. Again, finite games have known players and fixed rules. Finite games have a finish line, so they have a finish line. You think about that. So if we're playing these games, there is a point where the game ends. Now, some of those games you wonder if they're ever going to end. So I don't know if you play Phase 10, but Phase 10 is one of those games that can last forever. But it definitely still has a finish line. Even if you think about basketball, all those things, they have a finish line. You score to get to the finish line, and the finish line is the end of the game. There's only 4 quarters, 2 halves, 8 innings, whatever. However you want to do it, it's a finish line. And the other thing about finite games is they have winners and losers. So the whole point of a finite game is to decide winners and losers. And if you think about it, a lot of things in our society outside of Uno and things like that has winners and losers. If you think about the judicial system, the laws that we have does create winners and losers as we follow that. And you can think about it as you drive in traffic. Traffic, just driving your car, is a finite game because there's winners and losers, there's a finish line, there's unknown players, and you definitely have rules you have to abide by in this finite game. So start thinking about finite games in terms of your life. Like I said, just driving to work. Driving, having a license is a finite game. Driving is a finite game. Shopping ain't a finite game because we're going to spend all the money we can. No, I'm just kidding. No, we save. Finite games. So the other side of this is infinite games. Infinite games. So infinite games have known and unknown players, and new players can join at any time. In infinite games, I'm going to actually wait to the end to give some examples because yeah, it's interesting. So also infinite games have no fixed rules. You play however you want. As a matter of fact, we will talk about relationships are an infinite game. So relationships have known and unknown players. So like I was saying, going as we talked about my real life example, going to the conference, I knew some of the people that was going to be there, and there were unknown people. Or if I think about my personal relationships as dating, there were known players that I've dated, and then in the future, I don't know who the new players are going to be. And there will be new players that can join at any time. Just having this conversation right now might get a new player. There are no fixed rules. So in relationships, as a perfect example, there are no fixed rules. Or as since we're on in this healing process, in the healing process, so that's what we're talking about. Healing is an infinite game. There is no finish line. And I need to really stress that. There is no finish line. Healing is an infinite game. Marriage should be an infinite game, although we go into it with a finite mindset, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So, no fixed rules. No fixed rules. You play however you want. So the rules can adjust. So how I was, like if I think about dating, how I dated one person, we had these rules, and the next person we might have had a different set of rules. The rules can change and adjust depending on the players or what was necessary or what's needed. Healing. The healing process has no rules. You can play it however you want. And that includes choosing not to play it at all, because that's still that's still playing the game. And it's an infinite process. There is no end to this game. Relationships, you will always interact with relationships, whether they be romantic, whether they be platonic, whether they be any of those things, until the day you leave this earth. So there is no end to this game. In this healing process, there is no end to this game. There's just places where new levels of healing. And I say that healing because at some point healing converges into growth, and they both come together. And in an infinite game, there are no winners and losers. There's only ahead and behind. So I can be ahead at some point, or I can be behind. And in relationships, how we can think about that. A lot of times we talk about thinking about romantic relationships, we talk about who is the leader of the relationships. Again, romantic relationships are an infinite game. So there necessarily isn't a leader. There are no winners and losers. There's only ahead and behind. And that's that symbiotic flow where sometimes my word is going to be more powerful, and then sometimes your word is going to be more powerful. It's a symbiotic. So again, finite, known players, played by the rules, has a finish line, winners and losers, stuff like Uno, stuff like driving. Um, Infinite games are known and unknown players, no fixed rules, no end to this game, only ahead and behind. That can be like marriage, that can be like dating, that can be like your career. Um, if your career is aligned with your purpose, living in your purpose, no end to living in your purpose. Oh, I got some notes over here for myself. Now, the one thing that I wanted to talk about as we talking about a relationship specifically is what happens when we approach an infinite game. Like you remember marriage and relationships like dating with a finite mindset. If we go into an infinite game with a finite mindset, what winds up happening? So, if you go into a relationship with fixed rules, that the relationship has to go by these rules and not necessarily agreed upon, and it doesn't necessarily have fluidity to adjust, and you go into a marriage with this finish line, which a lot of people do. They go into the marriage or the relationship preparing for what happens, what about isms, what if this ends. So that's going into the relationship or the marriage with a finite mindset. So when you go into an infinite game, like your career, again, I'll keep giving examples, like relationships, like healing, this is what winds up happening. The first thing it does, all it does, the main things it does, is destroy. So the first thing, it will destroy trust. So if you're going into a relationship, and I like to use that, the perfect example is the marriage, and or you going into a relationship, or you hear these ideas like don't ever just trust a man or a woman wholly. You're going in with this mindset, this finite mindset. You've automatically destroyed the trust in that relationship. So as much as you may be protecting yourself, And as we discussed millions of times, how our walls and tools of protection can also create the hurt and the pain that we wish to avoid. This is an example. You destroy trust. The next thing you wind up destroying is cooperation. If you can't trust the person or you're trying to be in this infinite game with someone who already has a finite mindset, it's hard to cooperate because this person isn't necessarily being cooperative. They're still working on their said and unsaid goal of what happens when this fails. You know what I mean? So they're not even a lot of times what makes it even difficult for them to realize or us to realize is that we're able to compromise or be cooperative a little bit. But the thing about it is we're only cooperative to the level of our fixed rules. I'm pointing like you see, but we're only cooperative to the level of our fixed rules. And the last thing that it does is it destroys innovation. So when a person has that finite mindset in an infinite relationship, innovation is destroyed. And I remember I got mixed feelings about this movie, but one of the lines I love, but Love Jones. And one of the things he said is like they just exhausted the possibilities. And when you have a finite mindset, you going into your career, you're going into a marriage, you're going into dating with that finite mindset, innovation is destroyed. No new ideas. There's no way to fix the problem. We can't do that. Like you think about the people who you've interacted with, and even if you suggest something like therapy or even this where we're doing energy and stuff like that, no, they don't want to do that because they have that finite mindset. And innovation cannot reside there. So that is I want you to take a little time and think about, are there any ways that you have been approaching infinite interactions with a finite mindset? All right, hold on. Oh, you still talking about chicken nugget day? Are y'all still with me? Occasionally we start doing some learning. All right, so what I do want to leave us with though is how, like I talked about, if you approach a infinite game with a finite game mindset, I want to give you some tools to be able to how to approach an infinite game with an infinite mindset. Let me see. Now he gave us this nice little wheel. I don't know if I want to really hold it up, but I do want to talk about certain things. So the first thing, the most important thing that you want to go into an infinite game with with an infinite mindset is to advance a just cause, and specifically a just cause in this case is a specific vision of a future state that does not yet exist. It is so appealing that people are willing to make sacrifices in order to help make that vision reality. So, a just cause is whatever specific vision you have of a future state that does not exist yet. So, if you see yourself as healing or healed, if you see yourself as happy, if you see yourself as married, if you see yourself as rich, if you see yourself as anything, that can be a just cause if it is a specific vision of a future state that does not yet exist. And if it's so appealing that you are willing to make the sacrifices in order to make that vision reality. And I think we all are because that's why we're here. I think this show, I think the chat, I think you all, I think we all represented because We have a vision, and we want to create a space that's healing, a safe space for communication, a safe space for growth. And I think we're doing that. We're working together. So this is a perfect example of a just cause. So thank you for supporting this just cause. So in a just cause, to advance a just cause, you want to build trusting teams, which is what I just discussed with this. So trusting teams is, for lack of better words, is a place where we feel safe to communicate, where we feel safe to share our ideas and thoughts, our troubles, our triumphs, our failures, to advance the cause. That may be, it may be healing for this case, it may be marriage, it may be whatever your just cause may be. You want to make sure you gather the right teams. So like I said, healing is a communal thing. We need each other. We cannot do it by ourselves, because you will come with new ideas. Like, I never would have thought about this if I wasn't open to the healing process. Other thing that you want to do is study worthy rivals. So, rivals in the sense that someone that is doing what you're doing in a way that you would like. So, you want to think about this in terms of like models or role models. If you need you a coach or something like that, you admire the way that someone's doing it. So, they're not competitors, they're rivals. You know what I mean? And if you know that, if you know, like I know, so I remember when I went to undergrad, Winston State, one of our biggest rivals was A&T. And I remember when we stopped playing A&T, do you think that rivalry was gone? No. We were 30 minutes away. So rivalry isn't necessarily competitors. There's just somebody that's doing something in a way that you admire. And we admired A&T. Not because they were doing it better, but we were all doing it in a field that not a lot of people do. Doop, 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 doop. So the other thing you want to do is prepare for existential flexibility. And that's what I'm going to explain. So he gave a little bit of detail on that. So existential flexibility is to develop the capacity to initiate an extreme disruption to a business model or strategic course in order to more effectively advance your just cause. So for example, and since we're thinking about this, this show. So when I first started it, it was started this process. The Reiki and all of that was just to be for me to heal myself. And then it switched to I wanted to be able to help other people, right? And to advance my just cause, I had to make some sacrifices because as private as I am, and I had to have that extension flexibility. I put all my business out on Front Street so we all could share, and you all, and it creates that symbiotic, that ebb and flow that we need. Where I share, you share. But this whole internet, this whole streaming thing is a perfect example of it. Or if we're thinking about relationships. So sometimes it is just gotta change your mind state and try to live differently. And don't even judge yourself. So I give you an example. One of the ways that I did that, one thing that I like, one of my just causes is a family. You know what I mean? And into having a family, there's a certain level of flexibility that I needed to have and openness. And when I got the opportunity to, this is where I dated someone who actually had 3 children. And for me, it was the existential flexibility. It was an extreme disruption to a business model. I've been solo for the longest. And to date a woman with 3 kids was an extreme disruption to a business model, that solo model or strategic course, where I've been taking it by myself to more effectively advance your just cause. So that was an extreme disruption. to advance that idea of family. And marriage could actually be that same thing, as a just cause. And the last thing that you want to be able to do is demonstrate the courage to lead. And that is to take that leap of faith. You got to be able to take the chances. As you learn, you take the chances. And something specifically that I thought was interesting that we discussed was the difference between bravery and courage. And what I never really thought about it, because a lot of times we use bravery and courage interchangeably, but they're not. So bravery for the most part includes physical harm. You can die. So that's why they were like the brave firemen are brave, because they run up in there to be they can actually die from that. So to exhibit, excuse me, bravery, there has to have some threat of physical harm or something like that. But courage, you can have some sort of threat, but it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It's just the ability to take that chance. And like I said, that leap of faith. And with this, it is risky, and courage. So hopefully you were able to get a couple of notes. Excuse me. Um, that was beneficial for you. Yeah. So again, that was what was that book again? Let me tell you one more time, because I really think I'm gonna get the book. I have, like I said, I have several of Simon Sinek's books. Simon Sinek, Sinek books. But the Infinite Game is the one I think I'm gonna get. And before we wrap this up, I do want to talk a little bit about what is going on. Okay, Sean. So I do want to trip a little bit about my one more thing about the conference. So at this conference, I probably met the greatest person in the world. Well, at least one of the greatest people in the world. I don't know if ever in your life you've ever had an opportunity, but if you ever do run into this dynamic, please interact with them. So at this conference, I met an Asian woman named Lolita. And I loved it. First of all, when I seen her name tag and it said Lolita, I was like, okay, Asian Lolita. And why, of all people, did Asian Lolita take a liking to me? And it's partly because I guess we got stuck on the elevator and we started joking on the elevator. But what made me fall in love with Asian Lolita, and I keep calling her Asian Lolita because I feel like she might have been Filipino, but she might not have been Filipino, right? But she every bit about 4'11", and she dressed fabulously too. So you can't tell her the thick accent, thick accent. So while we're at this hotel, they're having this what is it, black vendors thing going on. So it's a lot of black owned businesses trying to promote their business at this little vendor event. A lot of alcohol, a lot of popcorn, there's cookies and barbecue sauces, all types of stuff. So I ain't record a lot of that. I did show my butt though. I talk trash about this lady's chocolate to the lady, and I ain't know she was the lady. So it was funny. So I run into me and Lolita, then I already decided we're gonna be friends. And I catch Lolita again, and she got a cup in her hand, right? And I had went past this black vendors thing, and it looks like a conference like us. So you gotta have a name tag, and normally all this you gotta sign in. Normally all that generally comes with a cost. So when I seen the table and all that stuff, I was like, it looks familiar. I'm not going in. So when I see Asian Lolita, she is like, I ghost in there to the black thing. I was like, what? You went in there? For real, right? Now, remember, she has this cup in her hand. She was like, yes. It is so great. You go, please. She said, the salsa is delicious. She telling me go to the first guy. And then she said the guy had the vodka. I say, you say what? She said the guy has the vodka. So somebody in there had vodka, right? And she got excited telling me about this vodka. So she is like, first they give you this shot, right? You take a shot of the vodka and you drink it, and then he give you the mixed drink. So when she held her head towards me, I ain't realize. I thought she was drinking pineapple, drinking the juice, but she in here with a mixed beverage, right? Caveat to this, literally in 3 or 4 minutes, we're about to go to team meeting. So she about to go into her own team meeting or whatever, right? So she telling me they got free liquor in this Black Vendor Expo. So I'm watching right before she go into her meeting. She look at me, she give me that nod, and look, 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 slam the cup in the garbage can and go on. And I was not ready for that. Between the lady doing sign language, I mean, the praise dancing to We Are the World, and Asian Lolita, I couldn't have had no better time at a conference than I can think of in my life. And listen, she is the first Asian Lolita that I've ever seen or met. Cause like I said, I thought she was Filipino, so I don't know. Filipinos like Lolita as a name. I don't know. So, but she was the first one I got to interact like that. And listen, every time I go to another one, I am going to be looking for Asian Lolita. But that's how great this experience was. The first conference I went to, I got chased for calling people fat. This one, I made friends called Asian Lolita. All right. So, again, I thank you. I missed you all last week. I will be this week. I think we got 2 more weeks, I think. Yeah. I'll be able to come again next week, and then the week after that, I'll be in Georgia somewhere. So we gonna cut that out. I got a lot of traveling to do lately. But anyway, I see you all next Thursday. If somebody feeling lucky, man, maybe next Tuesday we can I'll make a post and we'll ask somebody, man. We'll do some energy readings. We hadn't done one since we did the Magnificent Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. So it's about time for another one. But I miss you guys. Glad to be back. I'll post some videos. Let me say this other thing. DC food mid. I was so disappointed. The best food I had there was a sandwich. It's like, what the hell? What the hell? So yeah, DC food. Well, I ain't gonna say DC because I wasn't in DMV. I was in the V part and it was mid. And that's what everybody said. And I love the area. So, but yeah, food was disappointing. So, but I'm gonna post it. Oh, then I got cheated, man. I went and got a drink and they gave me a shot and halved it with water. So that was crazy. But I'm gonna talk about it. Again, see you next week. See you Thursday for book club. We'll pick up continuing on the sentence. If you can't make it on Thursday, we'll see you next week for another episode. Thanks for your support. I miss you and look forward to seeing you next week. Later.